Welcome to another edition of the Rush Limbo podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special Memorial Day edition of the Limbo Edition with your host, Rush Limbo. Today, we pause from our usual political skirmishes to honor a day steeped in profound meaning, a day that deserves our heartfelt respect and solemn reflection. Memorial Day isn't just another holiday, it's a poignant reminder of the cost of freedom and the valor of those who paid its highest price. As we kick back in our lawn chairs, bask in the early summer sun, and perhaps enjoy the sizzle of a barbecue, it's vital to remember that this day is about more than just relaxation and retail sales. Memorial Day was birthed from the aftermath of the Civil War, a time when our nation was torn at the seams, drenched in the blood of its own people. Originally known as Decoration Day, it emerged as a grassroots effort to honor those who fell during the Civil War by decorating their graves with flowers and flags. Fast forward to today, and Memorial Day has been designated as a federal holiday to remember all those who have died in American military service. It's a day to reflect on the stories of brave men and women who left the safety of their homes to fight for our freedoms, only never to return. These are the heroes who understood the cost of liberty and paid it willingly so that you and I could live in a land where freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of enterprise are not just abstract concepts but daily realities. Why, then, do some treat this hallowed day as nothing more than a chance for a long weekend or an opportunity for commercial gain? It's a question that gnaws at the fabric of our patriotic spirit. Today, I urge you, my fellow Americans, to embrace the true essence of Memorial Day. Visit a cemetery, lay flowers on a grave, or simply take a moment of silence at 3 p.m., the National Moment of Remembrance. It's the least we can do to show our gratitude to those who sacrificed everything for our tomorrow. Let's also educate our younger generation about this day's significance. It's not just a chapter in history books. It's about real lives, real stories, and real sacrifices. It's about soldiers from the sands in the Pacific to the mountains of Afghanistan, all who believed so fervently in the American idea that they laid down their lives to preserve it. As we reflect on the depth of Memorial Day, it is only fitting to recall the words of one of the most ardent patriots to ever occupy the Oval Office, President Ronald Reagan. Known for his eloquent speeches and steadfast commitment to American values, Reagan deeply understood the sacrifices made by our military men and women. In one of his most memorable addresses, he reminded us that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Today, as we prepare to listen to his timeless speech, let us remember his call to cherish and defend the liberty bought at such a dear cost, and to ensure that those who gave the last full measure of devotion did not do so in vain. This is the essence of Memorial Day, a day to honor those heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice for the ideals we hold dear. Join me as we listen to the stirring words of President Reagan, a true champion of the brave and the free.
In America's cities and towns today, flags will be placed on graves and cemeteries. Public officials will speak of the sacrifice and the valor of those whose memory we honor. I have no illusions about what little I can add now to the silent testimony of those who gave their lives willingly for their country. Words are even more feeble on this Memorial Day, for the sight before us is that of a strong and good nation that stands in silence and remembers those who were loved and who in return loved their countrymen enough to die for them. Yet we must try to honor them, not for their sakes alone, but for our own. And if words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions we must strive to keep faith with them and with a vision that led them to battle and a final sacrifice. Our first obligation to them and ourselves is plain enough. The United States and the freedom for which it stands, the freedom for which they died, must endure and prosper. Their lives remind us that freedom is not bought cheaply. It has a cost. It imposes a burden. And just as they whom we commemorate were willing to sacrifice, so too must we, in a less final, less heroic way, be willing to give of ourselves. Each died for a cause he considered more important than his own life. Well, they didn't volunteer to die. They volunteered to defend values for which men have always been willing to die if need be. the values which make up what we call civilization, and how they must have wished, in all the ugliness that war brings, that no other generation of young men to follow would have to undergo that same experience. As we honor their memory today, let us pledge that their lives, their sacrifices, their valor shall be justified and remembered for as long as God gives life to this nation. And let us also pledge to do our utmost to carry out what must have been their wish, that no other generation of young men will ever have to share their experiences and repeat their sacrifice. Earlier today, with the music that we have heard, and that of our national anthem, I can't claim to know the words of all the national anthems in the world, but I don't know of any other that ends with a question and a challenge as ours does. Does that flag still wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? That is what we must do. Thank you.
Let us never forget those brave men and women who gave their lives so that we can be free. God bless you all.